Formula E was back in action this past weekend, this time hitting the sweltering streets of Rome for the penultimate round of the All-Electric World Championship, in what would be the longest race in Formula E history. There was high drama before the race even started, as McLaren's Jake Hughes crashed heavily in qualifying and was unable to take part in Saturday's race. It was an all-Jaguar front row with Mitch Evans starting on pole. However, it was his teammate Sam Bird who got the better launch off the line and led the opening laps. Championship challenger, Porsche's Pascal Wehrlein, however, had a disastrous start, damaging his front wing in the opening corners and was forced to pit for repairs. The safety car came out on lap 3 as Andretti's André Lotterer, suffering a torrid season in Formula E, went slightly wide at the fearsome turn 6 and collided with the barrier. On the safety car restart, Evans wasted no time retaking the lead at the top of the hill at turn 7. Several laps later, after many drivers took their first attack mode, Edoardo Mortara caused some carnage through turn 7 and 8 as the Maserati driver went very deep, causing a concertina effect and backing up a handful of cars behind him. However, it was the following lap that turned the race on its head. Sam Bird was the latest victim of turn 6 as he crashed heavily into the barrier before his car veered back onto the middle of the track. Many of the drivers behind had little time to react, with Buemi and Mortara both striking the stricken Jaguar. Buemi clipped the rear of Bird's car, causing his car to start flipping over, while Porsche's Da Costa drove underneath him. Mortara was less lucky, hitting the rear of Bird's car quite heavily. Luckily, all drivers were uninjured, but the monstrous crash resulted in a substantial red flag period and only 14 drivers were able to take the restart. Despite the massive crash moments earlier, the drivers didn't lose any of their aggression as racing resumed, with both Rast and Ticktum coming off worse after some contact and Rast being forced to retire. With 10 laps to go, Dennis made a charge for the front, overtaking both Evans and Fenestraz in the process. However, after building his lead, the team quickly realised that they had miscalculated their energy and Dennis was on the back foot. As the laps dwindled away, Evans and Cassidy both started eating into Dennis's lead. Evans overtook him on lap 18 as Dennis took his final attack mode, while Cassidy passed the Brit 4 laps later. Such was Dennis's energy deficit that he was passed by the Maserati of Max Günther and was being harried to the end by Vernon Muller. Evans took the checkered flag, winning his third straight race in Rome in style, taking the fastest lap for good measure. Taking a look at the top 10 from the first race in Rome, first was Jaguar's Mitch Evans, cementing his place as the king of the Rome E-Prix and marking his 9th ever Formula E victory. Second place was Envision's Nick Cassidy, who had a very clean and under-the-radar climb through the field, and rounding off the podium was Maserati's Max Günther, continuing his strong run of form in the second half of the season. Dennis struggled to 4th and managed to hold off the charges of Jean-Eric Vergne and Nico Müller, who finished 5th and 6th respectively. Wehrlein managed to score some points in 7th, despite pitting for a new front wing and rejoining plumb last. Nissan's Nato finished 8th, with Setch Camara who finished 9th, picking up valuable points for the Neo team. NATO's teammate Fenestraz rounded off the points finishers in 10th. Lotterer, Bird, Buemi, Mortara, Frines, Rast, Da Costa and Di Grassi all retired from the race. Race 2 on Sunday was held under the same sweltering conditions, with the track temperature reaching 60 degrees Celsius by lights out. Jake Dennis started on pole, with title rivals Cassidy and Evans starting in 2nd and 4th. With only 3 races remaining, every point was extremely valuable and mistakes couldn't be afforded. However, disaster struck for Evans and Cassidy on lap 2 as Evans misjudged his braking on the tricky run up to turn 7, careening into the Envision driver and going over the top of him. Both cars were able to continue, but Cassidy was sent to the back and Evans was forced to bring his wounded Jaguar into the pits to retire. The ensuing carnage resulted in Jeb and Wehrlein breaking their front wings and seemingly crushing the last of the Germans' championship aspirations. Dennis, who had managed to escape the melee, was comfortably in the lead, but was using slightly more energy than Sam Bird behind. The Jaguar driver was putting heaps of pressure on the race leader, but to no avail. Further back, Di Grassi was shunted into the barriers at turn 8 by Wehrlein and was forced to retire. During the attack mode activation phase, NATO managed to get back in front of Bird, which proved to be a blessing for Dennis as the Frenchman wasn't able to hold Dennis's pace, but at the same time was doing an excellent job defending from Bird, who had been shuffled back to 3rd. As the race came to a close, try as he might, but Bird was unable to make a move stick on the Frenchman as Dennis cruised to victory and took the first Grand Slam of the Gen 3 era. Nato took his first podium of the year in second, followed by Bird in third, which by the way gave Jaguar their 30th ever Formula E podium. Mortara was the lead Maserati in fourth, followed by Buemi in fifth and Gunter in sixth. Wehrlein finished seventh ahead of DS Penske's Van Dorn. Dan Ticktum finished ninth and Muller finished 10th, somehow getting back-to-back points finishes in the Abt. Lotterer, Set Camera, Freins, Mary, De Grassi and Evans were the retirements from the second race in Rome. To close up, let's take a look at the championship standings. Dennis, with 195 points, takes a commanding 24-point lead into the final doublehead in London. Cassidy, in second with 171 points, has an absolute mountain to climb if he wants to be Formula E champion in 2023. Ditto for Mitch Evans and Pascal Wehrlein, whose championship hopes are hanging by a thread in third and fourth with 151 and 146 points respectively. Byrne and Gunter are in fifth and sixth with 107 and 101 points. Da Costa and Buemi with 93 and 82 points make up positions 7 and 8, and the top 10 is rounded off by Bird and Nato with 77 and 47 points. Van Dorn and Hughes are level with 46 points in 11th and 12th. 13th and 14th are Rast and Fenestras with 32 points, followed by Mortara and De Grassi in 15th and 16th. 17th and 18th are Lotterer with 23 points and Ticktum with 20 points. 19th and 20th are Set Camera and Muller with 14 and 11 points respectively. Roland and Freins finish off the point scorers so far this year with 9 and 6 points. At the bottom of the table are Mary, Van der Linde and Beckman, who are yet to get off the mark. In the team's championship heading into the final rounds, Envision took the lead over Porsche with 253 points, Jaguar are third with 228 points, Andretti are fourth with 218 points, followed by DS Penske in fifth with 153 points. Maserati are sixth with 130 points, 86-point McLaren stay ahead of their works team Nissan, who have 79. NIO are in a dogfight with Mahindra for ninth, with a Chinese outfit ahead by a single point. Abt rounds out the table with 17 points. It was a massively important weekend in Formula E, which had monumental ramifications for the championship. It all come down to London, as Formula E's first season of the Gen 3 era concludes on the docks of the River Thames. So be sure to check back for that review, and as always, subscribe to the channel for more Formula E content.